Back to Miller. Oh, my goodness.
Herbert.
Sidearm sling, and it's a touchdown.
Tyrese Maxey.
Oh, good spin move by Filipowski for the news. Give him 9.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Beef Upfront podcast. This is your host, Ryan Coyle, back with another episode today as part of our preview for this upcoming college football season, hitting on all the heavy hitters in college football, all the top dogs out there. Today's episode will be on the team that enters the 2023 college football season at number 5 in the AP poll, and that's your LSU Tigers. Coming off a 2022 season, first year under head coach Brian Kelly. They went 10-4 in year one. They wound up losing to Georgia in the SEC title game. Had a big-time victory, though, over Alabama on the last play of the game in overtime. They went for a 2-point conversion against the Crimson Tide. That was a huge win for the program and kind of just building some momentum off of Brian Kelly and his first year there down in Baton Rouge. During his tenure as a college football head coach, though, Brian Kelly is 294, 101, and 2. So 2 ties in 32 years as a college head coach. He's one of the better coaches of the 21st century. Doesn't have that elusive national title to his name yet, but I think that's why he made the jump from Notre Dame to LSU. Most likely puts him in a better shot to land some better players and potentially be the guy down there in Baton Rouge and get that national title back. He does look to have LSU back towards that top of the SEC for the foreseeable future. Just making it to the SEC title game where they eventually lost to Georgia in his first year, I thought was a huge accomplishment, especially after a slowish start for them, including the loss to Florida State. They really rebounded well, that big-time win over Alabama, and then making it to the SEC title game. No one was able to stop Georgia last year, so that's not really much to write home about losing that game. But he's got this team ready to rock and roll this year, number 5 in the AP poll. Entering the year 2 for Brian Kelly, the LSU Tigers are plus 300 to make the playoff, plus 450 to win the SEC, which is the third best odds in the conference, and then plus 1100 to win the college football playoff, which is the 5th best odds. So pretty crazy. They only have the 3rd best odds to win their conference, but they have the 5th best odds overall to win the national title. So this year, a lot of momentum from last year, I think, down the stretch built into this upcoming season for LSU and Brian Kelly. Some key losses from last year's team. They did have six guys get drafted, 6 undrafted free agents as well. So 12 kind of mainstays from last year's roster out of the picture now. B.J. Ojulari, the main guy that was drafted for them on the defensive side. And then Kayshon Boutte, he had an up and down season, off the field kind of issues. He got benched a couple times, but he was one of their more talented offensive players. Those are kind of the 2 main losses from last year's team. But this team returns arguably on both sides of the ball their best and most important player, and that's quarterback Jaden Daniels. We'll get into the offense now. He's back to lead this offense for the 2nd straight year after transferring in from Arizona State, and he has the 2nd best Heisman odds entering the season. Jaden Daniels plus 1100 heading into the season behind Caleb Williams, who now a few days out from the season is sitting at plus 500. The LSU offense last year averaged 34.5 points per game. That was ranked for 23rd best in the country. And they were 28th in total offense at 453.1 yards per game. So I think they also should be better in the 2nd year in Brian Kelly's system for Jaden Daniels. But Daniels did score 28 touchdowns last year. It was 17 through the air and 11 on the ground. So he's one of the better dual threat guys in all of college football, and he can really hurt you with his legs. I believe he went for 885 rushing yards last year as well. But he became a much better thrower of the football and being able to beat you from the pocket. He really showed that ability over the second half of last season, and especially from his time at Arizona State, where he was really just a guy that would just try and run around and make plays. He could now beat you with his arm as a passer. He does have coming back this year some of his top weapons. Malik Neighbors is his top wideout back, but he's only one of the key pieces from last year's offense. This offense is only returning 4 starters from last year, but Neighbors was one of those key guys last year. He went over 1,000 yards receiving, and he had 72 catches last season. And then Kyron Lacey is a guy to watch. He's viewed as kind of the breakout guy, I think, for this offense. In the spring game, he had a really big play with a 70-yard touchdown, and he has got some real game-changing type speed that could be big for the Tigers this year. So the Tigers return a good chunk of their offensive line or guys that got playing time up front last year, including freshman All-American tackle Will Campbell. I think that is a a big thing for them, being able to return your star left tackle. And then Josh Williams, he appears to be the lead back coming off a season where he ran for only 532 yards and 5 touchdowns last year, but that was good enough for 5.5 yards per carry. He was the second leading rusher behind Daniels. I think this year they're going to try and flip that, kind of let Daniels beat you with his arm more and be more of a pocket passer type guy and use his legs when he needs to. But let's give the ball a little bit more to Josh Williams and these guys in the LSU backfield. LSU over the years has been known to have some pretty star-studded running backs. Look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Leonard Fournette. It's time for another guy, a new face, to kind of step up in that backfield. I think they need that to really help balance out the offense and just find a featured guy in the game and not just put everything on Jaden Daniels' shoulder. He's going to be tasked with playing Superman ball, I think, from time to time, but he's plus 1,100 in the Heisman for a reason. He's got the second best odds for a reason. He's talented enough to do it. You just don't want him to do too much where he puts himself in a position to get hurt or potentially even wear down towards the season's end after going through the gauntlet that is the SEC. When we flip our attention to the defensive side of the ball now, it's going to start and end at linebacker with Harold Perkins. He was a freshman All-American last year as a linebacker that was mainly playing off the edge. They are moving him this year to inside backer, though, and it sounds like it's kind of a Micah Parsons type thing where Parsons was kind of like more of an edge rusher. They moved him inside, so he could be the next high-profile linebacker out of LSU. I know Micah Parsons went to Penn State, but I was just talking in the transition terms. But LSU has been a really good factory of producing linebackers over the years, and looks like Harold Perkins is next in line. Let's see if he can keep up that production or even go over what he produced last year during his freshman year. Mason Smith had a really strong freshman year at defensive tackle back in 2021 for LSU, and then he missed basically all of last year in the lineup with an injury. His return to the lineup is going to be key, but this defense only returns 4 starters from last year, and there is some question of who are going to be the guys in key spots for this LSU team. They're notorious for their secondary over the past 20 years having those elite blue chip type guys, whether it's a Tyrann Mathieu, Derek Stingley, Patrick Peterson, those type of guys. This LSU defense doesn't look to have that, but Brian Kelly did bring in 4 new transfers in the portal to play and get major snaps in the secondary. I'm sure this group is going to be fine by season's end, but it could be an adjustment period over the first few weeks, and having a team that has college football playoff expectations like FSU is not an ideal, first crack on the slate there. Your first game, you could have a much easier cupcake opponent. That's number 5 versus number 8 week 1. So that's going to be a really exciting game, but we could see a bit of a adjustment period with an experienced offense from Florida State, maybe having a chance to put up some points on this LSU team. Keep an eye out, though, for, as we talked about, Brian Kelly active in the transfer portal. They did bring in linebacker Omar Spates from Oregon State. He's a transfer coming in that has over 300 career tackles, and he's played at some high-level football. He's going to be a key veteran to this defense that has a lot of young pieces I think they're going to be counting on, but another new face in a new place. Last year, LSU ranked 40th in total defense at 354.6 yards per game. If they're able to sustain that with the expected success I have of Jaden Daniels in this offense this year, they should be right there in the mix for the SEC crown again and competing for a chance in the college football playoff. All right, schedule prediction time for LSU. Give me 1 second while I share my screen. I have this LSU team going 11-1, actually. I do have them having a really strong year, but I have them going 11-1. I do have them winning this big week 1 kickoff game against Florida State. I think Florida State or LSU is out for some revenge after losing that game last year, but I think that game is going to be one of those things where it comes down to who has the football last. Jaden Daniels and Jordan Travis dueling it out. I think it's going to be a really good game. I do think the game means more to Florida State, though, so I wouldn't be surprised to kind of see them come out and give it everything they have, because LSU has plenty more opportunities in the SEC to win games and high-profile games. Florida State really only has Clemson after this on their schedule. It's like a major kind of playoff-type contender. So I do think Florida State's going to give them their best shot, but I'm going to give LSU a win there in week 1. Jaden Daniels kicks off his Heisman campaign. A win over Grambling State, a win over Mississippi State, a win over Arkansas. Here's where I have their first loss, at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to have a dangerous offense, did a lot of work in the portal on the defensive side of the ball. I think we see a slip up there. I have them beating Missouri. I have them beating Auburn. I have them beating Army. And I have them actually going to Alabama and winning. I do think Alabama is a potential playoff team this year, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the quarterback spot. And when you have a quarterback in this league, you have a chance. And Alabama, they don't have a proven guy there right now. I have much more faith in Jaden Daniels. He showed the ability to beat Alabama last year, and I think he's got the balls and he's got the cojones on him to go down there to Tuscaloosa and pull out a win. I have them beating Florida. I have them beating Georgia State, and I also have them ending the year with a victory over Texas A&M. We'll see how everything shakes out with Alabama in the SEC West. But if Alabama doesn't lose any games besides that LSU game, LSU will be going back to the SEC title game and most likely playing the Georgia Bulldogs yet again. So that's my thoughts on this LSU team, an 11-1 overall record, going to Bama and winning. Their only loss at Ole Miss and also beating Florida State. I think they have the better and most capable quarterback in the entire SEC West. He's capable of going out there and making those big-time plays, especially on the road. That kickoff game against Florida State is a real coin flip, but I do think LSU is going to get their revenge from last year. And the only real dangers I see on their SEC schedule this year are Ole Miss, Bama, and Texas A&M. And they should be as talented or more talented than all of those teams, and they should have the better quarterback in every single one of those games. So when you have a really good, a great college quarterback, you're going to have a chance each and every week. And I think that's what this LSU team is set up to do. And I think they're just going to continue to climb under Brian Kelly as they continue to bring in more five-star recruits, more guys out of the transfer portal. But I'm expecting a big year from them, and I do envision LSU in the college football playoff. They are ranked at number 5 to start the year, so they're certainly in that conversation. As we touched on at the beginning, they are plus 300 to make the playoff, plus 450 to win the SEC, and plus 1,100 to win the college football playoff this year. So some pretty good numbers there on this LSU team. But that'll do it for this episode. We have a couple more previews coming out. We'll still be ripping through a Clemson and a Florida State preview, hit on some of those top ACC teams. But that will do it for this edition of the Beef Up Front podcast. Thank you, everyone, as always, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk soon.